Welcome into the Legislative Lounge. My name is Nathan Bigelow. I'm your host. I am also joined with my co-host, Mike Bales. How you doing tonight, Mike?
You know, it's always a beautiful day in Arizona.
Absolutely. I wish I could say the same here. It's a little doom and gloom here in Texas, but it's always muggy and whatnot. So we're starting to get back to our normal Texas weather, though. This last week has been a little wild, has it not?
It's been a wild last week.
So, there's a lot of different topics that have been happening over this last week, but one of the biggest ones that honestly I don't think is getting enough coverage right now is that it's one of those sayings that you hear all the time. Our enemies have always said that, they're going to destroy America from within. And it seems as though that's more prevalent nowadays than it has been in a long time because, talking about the individuals in Congress and how they, are very obviously connected with outside sources and countries and whatnot. But now we're starting to see it in our military and in our veteran community because just the other day, the FBI and these... the FBI had announced that there were two individuals that were active duty military that were being arrested for essentially treason because them attempting to sell top secret information to Chinese assets. And there was a third individual who was a veteran that was also arrested for the same type of information that was trying to be relayed to foreign adversaries.
100%. And what you're talking about is Jian Zhao, Lian Tan, and Rai Yuan. Two of them were active duty out of JBLM, which is Joint Base Lewis McChord out of Washington. And the two, Jian and Li, were charged with conspiracy to commit bribery and theft of government property, with Jian having an additional charge of conspiracy to obtain and transmit national defense information. And that individual is being accused of sending classified hard drives that were labeled secret and top secret to individuals in China in exchange for thousands of dollars.
I know. I mean, that is just absolutely insane to me that we're sitting here on the precipice of just elite levels of governmental corruption from top to bottom, and we're trying to alleviate it. Now we have to worry about individuals in our military that are supposed to be loyal to our country, who are born citizens here, but somehow have some connection just based off of knowing who they are and what they're descended of. They're Chinese, descendants from parents of Chinese Asian origin, selling our top secret information to China themselves. Like, to me, that is just, how can we sit here and say that looking at the legal immigration that we have, right, kind of tying two things together and saying, they're seeking asylum and all this other stuff, and we're on our side, we're sitting here saying we have to vet these individuals. We have to understand who they are, where they're coming from, and then at the same time, now we're dealing with people who are actually in our country trying to undermine and commit treason.
I mean, this isn't the first case that we've had. We had, I want to say his name was Major Hassan Nazar down in Fort Hood, who created a lot of devastation. And then we've had history of gang members actually joining the Marine Corps, utilizing, learning their training and then getting out and utilizing their tactics and whatnot, military training against local police. And it was quite devastating for law enforcement down in Southern California. So this isn't anything new. It is extremely wild that this isn't being talked about because this is a big national security risk. But I have full faith in Tulsi Gabbard, Pam Bondi, and Kash Patel.
Now, when it comes to these type of situations, they usually go national. And I do know that, ABC, CBS, and a couple other news networks kind of like touched on it a little bit. But the fact that it's not going absolutely viral all over social media is a little wild to me because I just found out about it last night, which this happened 2 or 3 days ago, honestly, and nobody's really talking about it. And you have to ask the question, why isn't this all over the place?
I mean, Joint Base Lewis McChord has a bit of a history with and there was at JBLM they have Second Ranger Battalion there, and there was a team. There was a Ranger team that actually utilized their training to rob a bank. Right. So it's no surprise that this isn't going to go national. That didn't go national. This isn't going to go national because who controls the mainstream media? The left.
I mean, in all reality, that is the truth, obviously. But it's just sitting here having to worry about the individuals in Congress and illegals coming across our nation, our borders, and trying to figure out that whole situation. Now, the people that are supposed to be the most loyal to the country. They swear an oath to our Constitution to defend it from adversaries that are foreign and domestic. Now we got to worry about them people. And that's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, well, the greatest enemies are those that come from within. And, some of our biggest enemies are, in my opinion, even some of our elected officials.
Ah, right. I mean, talking about elected officials, you had the absolute just embarrassment of Al Green, which is here in a representative here out of Houston, which is even worse, is the fact that we have individuals like Al Green just making a mockery out of, our congressional proceedings. I mean, just outwardly not abiding by the House decorum, nothing, and just showing how much of it. I try to use my words lightly in these shows, but honestly, just the absolute childishness and idiocy of an individual that's supposed to be our representative, sitting there saying that he's trying to speak and defend those of America. Well, I don't know, Mr. Al Green, if you paid attention on November 5th whatsoever, the majority of America voted for Donald Trump and the things that he was talking about at the State of the Union. So regardless of how you feel about Donald Trump, Al Green, America voted. And we made a statement when we voted, because not only did he absolutely sweep all the swing states, not only did he take the Electoral College in a landslide fashion due to the fact that he was such an underdog in all the polls, quote unquote, but he took, for the first time since 2004, the popular vote.
100%. And, Al Green was screaming about things that Donald Trump wasn't even talking about at that time. He was screaming about Social Security. You have no right to cut Social Security. And it's the same BS narrative that they're spinning in regards to that $880 billion number that only appears one time on page 44 of the House concurrent resolution regarding the spending bill. And it falls under the Committee of Energy and Commerce. Medicaid doesn't even fall in that bill. The word Medicaid isn't anywhere in that bill.
And you and I actually just recently looked, after all of this, into the numbers a little bit closer when it comes to Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, food stamps, things like that. That figure of $880 billion is actually on par, relatively within the scope of what they usually allot in that specific area in the first place. So the fact that he's arguing over probably dollars versus millions or billions is absolutely ludicrous and making a mockery out of the State of the Union, making him himself look foolish, and all of Houston that voted for him look like absolute fools.
Well, that entire night, I mean, you and I watched it in great detail. Mm-hmm. That entire night was just a sad night for Democrats. You had Al Green getting escorted out by the Sergeant at Arms. You had multiple Democrats walking out in the middle of it. You had not one Democrat stand up or applaud when it came to DJ Daniels, the cancer survivor, that was made an honorary secret agent, which was awesome. And then Jocelyn Nagari, who was recognized and had a wildlife conservation named after her, and Laken Riley, who was honored, her parents, Corey Comparator, and then that young gentleman, Jason, who got accepted to West Point on the spot. Not one Democrat. And for these people to claim that they care about women?
We'll get to that in a second, but I want to go off of what all of you just said is the fact that you have these Democrats sitting here saying that they're for the American people and doing all this, virtue signaling, in my opinion, and grandstanding, honestly. But in all reality, when it comes to the people that they're supposed to be, standing with and standing for, they couldn't bring the decency to themselves to even clap for great honors. I mean, you got individuals that literally died because of an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, that their family is there to be honored in the wake of losing their loved one, and that they don't have the decency to at least acknowledge the fact that they're there and they lost somebody from their absolute ludicrous side, because this was an individual that was deranged and was completely against Donald Trump, which is all that the Democrats care about. They don't care about how somebody doesn't like him. They don't care about what they're going to do against him. That's why you have all of these individuals all over social media now just outwardly saying that they want to unalive or, murder, honestly, we're using direct terms here on the radio, murder the United States sitting president.
Yeah, it's all over. And, that type of rhetoric led to July 13th. That type of rhetoric led to guys like that gentleman that tried to assassinate Trump while he was playing golf.
Mm-hmm.
Which we can get into that now if you want.
Absolutely. I mean,
in court.
Right, and that's one of the things that for me is, as a Democrat, I understand you have different views, you have different opinions than a Republican or Donald Trump specifically, but to sit there and say that you're there for the American people and propagate yourself as the saviors and the champions of the people, while not actually celebrating the achievements of the people or showing empathy in the times of heartache to the people that you're supposed to be the champions of, is absolutely disgusting to me in every manner.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've looked into the court case regarding Donald Trump's most recent assassination attempt suspect, but his defense counsel is wild. They actually they are asking the judge to allow for an examination of the rifle in question to see if it had the capability of accuracy and range for that attempt.
No, I didn't hear that, but that sounds absolutely ridiculous, just because in the fact, regardless of whether or not this guy is a marksman and knows his gun and is able to make that shot, it's irregardless, because the thing is not only was he attempting to murder the United States president at that time, he was just the president elect. Was he elect at that point? No, that was just prior. It was prior, but a former president at the time, a current leading nominee for the Republican ticket, but all the other people that were there for him he should be catching attempted murder for every other person that was there in that vicinity or within the area of his range of shot, because even if he wasn't an expert, especially if he wasn't an expert marksman, he could have shot any one of those individuals that were there.
100%. So, for those that don't know, the individual was armed with an SKS, which is a Russian-made firearm, semi-automatic rifle, chambered in 7.62 by 39 millimeter. Same rounds they use in AK-47s. And it had a scope on it, so accurately this rifle can reach out to 300 meters, which is just under a quarter of a mile.
And these are the people that the Democrats are defending, honestly. I mean, even if they're silent, your complicity speaks loud. Like, if you're not speaking out against this, then you're speaking for it, honestly. Because you're supposed to be the champions of the people, but your people are literally trying to murder your opposition. But yet they'll be the ones sitting here saying that the Republicans, or Donald Trump specifically, is the fascist. What's part of fascism, Mike, when it comes to, individuals that are trying to murder their opposition? I mean, it's right in the definition.
It's wild. Speaking of, firing on somebody, Did you hear about South Carolina?
What about?
So there was an individual that received the death penalty and was executed by firing squad.
Interesting. I didn't know we still did that.
So this individual was arrested back in 2001, I believe, arrested for double murder. He murdered his ex-girlfriend's parents. So it's been 15 years since an execution by firing squad has been utilized in the United States. It just caught my eye, and I was like, probably something interesting to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have several different means of executing death row inmates. So you have euthanasia, you have or lethal injection.
Mm-hmm.
There's a new one they're trying to, it escapes my mind. You have firing squad. You have, I think there might be 1 or 2 states that still do the electric chair. I'm not 100% sure.
Mm-hmm.
But then you just have life in prison.
Right.
So I find it incredibly interesting that in 2025, there was an instance of us utilizing a firing squad.
That is quite interesting. I haven't heard of that. I didn't know it was even something that we could do nowadays. Just because, you have the humanitarians out there in the United States always talking about cruel and unusual punishment, which is in our Constitution. So I grant them that. But, I mean, that's subjective, I guess.
And the way they did it was wild. I'm not going to get too into it because it'd get a little graphic. But
right.
It's interesting to see in 2025, and I'm surprised that hasn't gained more traction because of the randomness of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we will hear about it more in the future.
Right.
But
I mean,
yeah, super interesting.
But I mean, we're talking about convicted individuals. I did hear recently, which you made me aware of, the Daily Wire actually created a petition in regards to pardoning Derek Chauvin. And if you're not familiar, for everybody that's listening, who Derek Chauvin is, he's the infamous police officer that supposedly murdered, what's that gentleman's Mike, what's his name, from Minnesota? It's so unimportant to me that I don't care about it. Oh, man, we lost Mike's mic.
So, George Floyd?
Oh, there we go. All right. I don't know if technical difficulty. Yeah, George Floyd up there in Minnesota. I don't know how I feel about it, honestly. Mike, I know you may have a different opinion on it than I do, but what do you think?
For me, this is just my opinion. I'm with the Daily Wire on it because after reading the coroner's report and looking at every possible angle and of Derek Chauvin's positioning, and you start to understand that the evidence doesn't fit. Like asphyxiation was not the cause of death.
Right.
So for me, based on what I've read, it was a drug overdose. That's just for me.
Right.
People might have their own opinions on the subject, but for me, if the evidence doesn't fit, then you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be imprisoned.
No, absolutely, and that's kind of where I'm at with it. I just didn't understand. I've never heard you talk about it, but for me, I'm absolutely for it, just because of the fact that the evidence doesn't meet the conviction, honestly, because the conviction is that he murdered him due to asphyxiation, right? I think it was second-degree murder because it wasn't intentional. But the fact of the matter is that when it comes to the actual coroner's report, which is public knowledge and you are able to look it up yourself, it does not say anything about asphyxiation. It has to do with high levels of fentanyl and other drug usages that led to his heart giving out.
Yes, and the way he was, the entire time he was on the ground, he was communicating, and if you can breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there wasn't any cervical spinal damage. There wasn't any scapula damage. Mm-hmm. There wasn't any trachea damage. So that alleviates the determination of death by asphyxiation.
Mm-hmm. And
So
now this isn't to say that there isn't prejudice or that there isn't racism that's happening around the country, because it does happen. It does. I actually experienced it this week in my workplace. I think that it was a little out of pocket, but this particular instance has nothing, like, even though they like to drum it up as a race issue because Chauvin is white and Floyd is black individual, and that was a whole mantra during the quote on Summer of Love. When it comes to the treatment of black individuals here in America by the police force. Now, I understand that there are instances where it does occur and has occurred in the past. Like, I'm not oblivious to that, but this is not one of them. And trying to drum it up as one is absolutely anti-factual, just because of the coroner's report itself shows the clear indication of what actually happened. This is a known individual that has a rap sheet as long as my arm, and he was in the current act of committing, I think it was fraud, because the money that he was using at the time was counterfeit money. So he was in the act of committing a crime with, he has his crimes prior were in regards to harming individuals. I don't want to get too much into it, but his abuse and things of that nature were a part of it. But to drum this up as a race issue is just one of those things that's just anti-reality, honestly.
100%. And, Democrats, they know how to tug on your emotional heartstrings. And when it comes to racial justice, that definitely pulls on a lot of Americans' heartstrings. Mm-hmm. And especially when it comes to wrongful death situations or perceived wrongful deaths. Right. So this man was not a hero. This man was a criminal, a lifetime criminal. This man has been celebrated as a hero, given the golden casket, given statues, given monuments, murals, what have you. And it sets a bad tone for America. It sets a bad tone for our children to be looking up to a criminal. And, I wish we could just take a brush and wipe the pages clean and go down the right path.
Right. I mean, and that just pours over into other areas like immigration, quote unquote. It's illegal immigration is what we're referring to. But I mean, you got these people out here with the bleeding hearts for individuals claiming, oh, they're seeking asylum, even though we've went through the numbers and shown how there's a very small percentage of these millions upon millions of individuals that even qualify, because not all of them even can even apply for asylum because they don't fall into the understanding of what asylum's for. But I find it real funny, Mike. I know that you put in here that AOC, or Alexis Ocasio-Cortez, one of the representatives out of New York, her top aide self-deported herself because she's a Colombian national that was here illegally.
Yeah.
This is a U.S. representative that has illegals working within her own department or her own staff, right? A top aide. And this is also, to mind you, she is an individual that also put a video out instructing illegal immigrants how to evade ICE and federal agents.
Now, if I'm correct, that is a violation of 8 U.S. Code 1826.
24.
24.
Yeah, because it would fall under the jurisdiction of aiding and abetting.
Yes. So 24, and then 1825 is entering the country illegally.
The fact that she doesn't have any kind of charges coming against her just for the first thing, which was aiding and abetting through her videos of instructing illegal immigrants how to evade, but the fact that she's employing an illegal alien and they know about it, it begs the question of what is Kash Patel and Pam Bondi and really the Justice Department in general going to do about this? Because if they don't, this is an absolute contradiction to everything that they stand for.
I believe there at least should be some type of ramifications brought up in violation of Article 1 of the United States Constitution, which covers the creation and roles and responsibilities and how one conducts oneself in the legislative branch. it's interesting, all this illegal talk and, asylum seeking, and there's 90 cases, 90 lawsuits that have been launched, in regards to birthright citizenship and, 70 other EOs.
Yep.
And I were just having a conversation with, several individuals regarding birthright citizenship, and it was just honestly mind-numbing.
Right. Yeah, it's bad how bad people don't understand their own claims of the 14th Amendment.
Well, they don't understand the history of why even the 14th Amendment was created. And it was created because of the failed case of Dred Scott v. Sanford. And Dred Scott v. Sanford was arguing for federal citizenship, which isn't a thing.
Right.
And, we move into the constitutional debates of 1866, which leads to the ratification of the 14th Amendment in 1868. And the author of the 14th Amendment pretty clearly stated that this doesn't apply to, foreign diplomats or aliens. And, we have to utilize the terminology and understanding of the time when this is written, because that's what the Supreme Court is going to do.
Right, and I can't the name I can't recall, but I believe he was a senator out of Michigan that drafted this quite clearly through multiple communications. Also, the debates itself talked about how the 14th Amendment was drafted for slavery.
100%. It was for children of slaves.
Exactly. So the fact that you're using this as an argument piece for illegal aliens, it doesn't correlate. The two don't go in hand, and people will be like, well, it doesn't say anything about illegal aliens. And yes, but you also have to understand the historical contents of the actual amendment itself, or else you lose all the purpose of why it was even there in the first place.
100%. So the author stated that this doesn't apply to aliens, i.e. And then all the lawsuits pertaining to this executive order concerning birthright citizenship, they all cite USB Wong Kim Ark. And I restated this a lot in that conversation you and I were having. Wong Kim Ark's parents were Chinese nationalists, yes, but they were here legally and lawfully, and they had established permanent domicile. Now, those three words, lawfully, legally, permanent domicile, are key factors here in the Supreme Court's determination of allowing Wong Kim Ark American citizenship.
Absolutely. It seems to evade their minds the understanding, because they'll claim till they're blue in the face that they've read this stuff, but they don't understand. They may have read it, okay? I'll give it to them. Some people may have read it because, they know a little bit about the case itself, but they don't understand the actual words within it and how it applies and how it's applicable and how it specifically is not talking about anybody that is illegal.
100%. And, we also asked the question, who is the intended audience of we the people, right? We the people in the beginning of the United States referred to landowners.
Right.
Now, a lot of people might say it was white-only landowners, but that's a disingenuous argument, because if you actually look into the beginning states' history, the first states where majority, 9 out of 13 or 10 out of 13 had already abolished slavery.
Right.
You look into those states, you can see through the voting records that there were land-owning individuals that were white, black, brown, female, and they all, depending on the state, were able to participate in government functions.
Right. I mean, a lot of people like to evade that conversation because they don't want to they don't want to understand the reality of, first of all, females, one of the more prominent owners of land here in America in the original times, because that's just how everything was set up, that land ownership actually went through the matriarch of the family most times. It's just how it was done. It's still done that way in a lot of different countries. But also the fact that, people of color, as they like to call it, they were very prominent, especially in places like North Carolina and Virginia, which are usually deemed as the most racist, because that's where like General Lee, and that's where the Confederacy was founded, was North Carolina.
So I find it really interesting that people, those that forget the history are, if we forget history, we're doomed to repeat the cycle. And we're seeing a lot of this happen with the social political arguments. And, and the question needs to be asked, are we more racist now in 2025 than we were during Jim Crow?
I mean, it depends. I guess that's a subject of opinion, but in all reality, no. I mean, absolutely not. I mean, I'm a pure example of it. I'm a mixed individual that comes from a brown and white household. So the fact that, back in Jim Crow, you could have been unalived for that kind of stuff.
But, there's some individuals out there that would say, oh, well, Nate, you are, you could be considered white passing, or you could be considered the exception, not the rule.
I mean, just sitting here knowing all the individuals that I know, I mean, nobody's 100% anything nowadays. Just because, you have that lighter skin doesn't mean that you don't have the heritage. You don't have the understanding of their culture and all that. And I'm not an individual to race bait, because like I say, I come from a mixed household. So this whole mantra of, oh, well, my brown ethnicity, like I that stuff doesn't apply to me. Like it doesn't faze me, because in all reality, I know who I am, and I enjoy both sides of my family. I enjoy the reality of knowing that I have a mixed family, and I love it. And people need to get past the aspect of, oh, well, this is mine and that's yours. The gatekeeping on culture is just absolutely insane to me.
100%. And the whole premise of the exception, not the rule, that's thrown out the window, because we have, individuals of all skin colors serving in multitudes, every level of government that we have. We've had a black president. We've had a black vice president.
Technically, we've had 2 black presidents, but nobody wants to talk about that. But I digress.
He was sworn in. And, we've had black and Mexican police chiefs, governors, mayors, what have you. Every level of governance, we've had multiple demographics of individuals. Absolutely. I mean, we have senators and
we had an Indian vice president, even though she claims she's something else.
I mean, look at our FBI director. He's not white.
Right? He's an FBI director. He's directly descendant from people of India. So, I mean, like I say, I don't understand why in 2025 we're still hyper-focused on skin color or, their ethnicity and their background, when in all reality, we're Americans. We should be fighting for America, regardless of what your race, creed, color, and background is. Because what we believe in is American values of understanding what the Constitution gives us, not based off of what our skin tone is or where our family's descended from, but that we're American people, right? Born here in America, giving us actual citizenship. And people like to conflate that into not understanding that when it comes to illegals, kind of wrapping it back, that illegal immigrants coming here while pregnant and having a baby here doesn't make that child an American citizen, no matter how you look at it. And once these lawsuits get to the Supreme Court, I'm fully confident that you will see that. It might be a very close vote, like 5-4, but in all reality, it's going to come down on the right side.
So I made a video earlier this morning in regards to this subject, and I'm making a prediction now live. It's going to go before the Supreme Court. It's going to stand. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a 6-3.
I could see a 6-3. Just with the amount of attention on this, and the push for it, I could see a 5-4 though.
So they're going to look at U.S. v. Kim Art. They're going to see the lawfully, legally, and permanent domicile. They're going to look towards the traditional writings as it's applied to the 14th Amendment and see, what the author's intentions were for it, and I have full confidence that'll stand. And like the EO says, it's not retroactive. Mm-hmm. It's March of 2025 and further. Mm-hmm. So, and if the Democrats aren't crying about racial politics or spending billions and billions of dollars on illegal aliens. It's, disregarding women.
Right before that, though, the one thing that I really wanted to address, because we were talking about the Supreme Court, is the one person that I'm a little worried on when it comes to that situation with the citizenships when it goes to the Supreme Court is Amy Coney Barrett. She's been very questionable on her rulings as of late, especially when it comes to the federal aid situation with Donald Trump. She ruled in favor against Donald Trump, which I'm not understanding how she came to that conclusion due to the fact that the president has the ability to do that within his powers.
Yeah. So Amy's always been shifty. So I didn't agree with her confirmation.
Yeah, I mean,
because of she's always had mixed rulings. I couldn't tell whether or not she was like someone that embodied my values as well.
Now, I don't know if there's any kind of confirmation to this, but some questions came up about Amy Coney Barrett after this, is that she actually helped a lot with the coronation, quote-unquote, coronation of the other justice that was, her name I can't ever remember. She's the younger one that Biden appointed, of the black lady. Yeah, I can't pronounce that, so I don't want to ruin how, I don't want to be disrespectful in that sense. So that individual, so there's rumors that she helped facilitate the celebration and everything of her being inducted or appointed as the Supreme Court justice. So it's like,
that's interesting.
Now, like I say, I don't know if these are just rumors or if there's founded information on this. This is just something that I've heard, and it would really beg the question of, now obviously, when it comes to the Supreme Court, they have to be impartial. But the fact that, somebody like Ketanji, I hopefully I said that correctly, being so extremely liberal, like far left, and then Amy Coney Barrett coming in and like, yay, we're best friends. If that's the truth, I'm going to preface that. If that's the truth, kind of begs the question of like, were some of the things that you were telling Donald Trump through your confirmation of being Supreme Court, do you really stand on it? Because being buddy-buddy with somebody that's that extreme to the left really begs the question of, are you telling us the truth about what you stand on?
Yeah. Justice Jackson, she lost me when she couldn't define what a woman is.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know of any of the Supreme Court justices, and there's some of them in there still right now that are really left, but I've never seen one as far left as she is.
There literally is a legal definition to what a woman is, and the fact that she claimed that she couldn't, define it because she's not a biologist. Mm-hmm. Like, when I heard that, my jaw dropped to the floor.
It's the reality of, or it's not even a reality. It's this fictitious fantasy that these people want to live in, and honestly want to facilitate the mental decline or incompetence, whatever you want to call it. But it's gender dysphoria, essentially, right? It's one of those things that people just want to push that as the next narrative, and it's been there for a while. And to me, it's an issue of they need mental help, honestly.
It's interesting. We talked a little bit about slavery, and back in the day, during that time, Democrats did not want to lose their slaves because who would pick the cotton, right? Today, Democrats do not want to lose their illegal aliens, and they've said it, because who's going to pick the fruit?
Yeah, that's some of the wildest statements I've seen, and I keep hearing all over the place. And it's like, so you believe in cheap labor then? Because you and I understand that these people are being underpaid because they're coming here with nothing, and that these employers are taking advantage of them. And you're okay with that? We've had people straight up say that they are. I'm like,
100% okay with exploiting people. I mean, majority of these individuals support Ukraine, and Ukraine, most people forget that Ukraine, before the war started, was one of the leading countries of child exploitation. and, slave labor.
Mm-hmm. Right.
People forget about that.
Right. And I know that just a moment ago, you kind of like wrapping this into a different area. A moment ago, you were talking about, women in girls' sports. HR 28, we all know passed the House just this last week. But the problem is, Mike, I know that you have you probably have the exact numbers, so go into it.
I think it was 51-49, or no, 51-48, which allowed the Democrats to filibuster.
Mm-hmm. That's in Senate, correct?
That was in the Senate.
Right. Okay.
And one of the arguments was made by the Senate Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries. He made this just ridiculous claim that banning trans women from playing sports with women will unleash sexual predators.
Huh? That's what we're trying to actually eliminate by doing this. Because how many times, I mean, there's stories after stories of these individuals that are going into these restrooms and these locker rooms and doing things that they shouldn't be, honestly. And that's so. Hakeem Jeffries is an individual that just, I don't know. He is just an individual in Congress that seems to be there just to get his name recognized, not really understanding the things that he says, because he says ridiculous statements like this all the time.
100%. I mean,
but I want to bring clarity to the fact that this did pass the House back in January, right? January 14th to be exact, by a vote of 218 to 206. That means there's 206 Democrats that did not want to protect women and children. Yet they're supposed to be the champions of women and children, right? Women and young girls in regards to, we're trying to protect them and keep their rights and all this other stuff, but you don't want to protect their spaces, though. Makes no sense to me. And then you get it to the Senate, right? Like Mike just said, and they filibuster, which then requires a cloture vote of 60% or more. And yet, what was the number, Mike? There was 49 or 48 Democrats. Every single Democrat voted against it, right? Which stopped the bill in and of itself. So it's like, not only have the 206 in the House of Representatives, you also have the 47 or 48 in the Senate as well. And it's like, you guys are supposed to be the champions of protecting women's rights, but yet when it comes to specific bills that absolutely do that thing, you're nowhere to be found. You're the complete opposite of it.
So it comes full circle, right? The Democrats were against freeing the slaves. The Democrats were against women's suffrage. The Democrats were supporters of Jim Crow, opposition against desegregation.
Right. I mean, the initial writings of the 64 Civil Rights Acts, the initial ones, which people don't talk about, were drafted by Republicans and shot down by Democrats.
Yep. You had I want to say it was a 1957 Civil Rights Act.
Yeah, I was going to say late 50s is when they first came out, and then they shot them all down. And Lyndon B. Johnson, being the individual that he is, and said the things that he said that were absolutely vile, that's when they went forward and said, hey, we're not going to win another election if we don't do this, right? So they flipped heels, essentially.
100%. But it all comes full circle. Now, they're playing the racial politics. Now they're complaining that, we're kicking out people that are breaking our federal law and entering the country illegally. Now they're back to oppressing biological women, real women and girls, taking away their opportunities, taking away everything that they fought hard for.
Right. I mean, for me, I know you have a daughter, Mike. I have two of them, right? And they're both playing sports. My youngest one, I think, is going to be a phenomenal athlete. Just looking at how she plays now. And now I have to worry about whether or not, she's going to be playing against boys and, her achievements in something that I think she's going to excel in, soccer. I don't know if she's going to be able to have that opportunity when she gets into high school to play at an elite level to show off the talent she has, because you have some guy playing dress up, and obviously has a biological advantage kicking butt.
It's not just that I'm scared of. I'm scared of a Loudoun County issue. So Loudoun County, Virginia, there was that boy that dressed like a girl and assaulted two female students at two different schools.
Right.
I have that fear. Screw I don't agree with men playing against women in sports.
No.
But that is a concern for me. What I'm concerned is for my daughter and your daughters and all of our daughters' safety. I don't want boys in girls' locker room. I don't want boys in girls' sports. I don't want boys taking away our daughters' scholarship opportunities.
Right.
Their benefits.
Right. And you know what's funny about this is the golden boy of the Democrats, the one that they're more than likely going to put up for 28, and I'm surprised they actually didn't do it this last term, and Governor Newsom went on a podcast this week with Charlie Kirk and did a debate. And in that debate, he even admitted that it was unfair for trans athletes to be in female sports. So it's like, this is your golden boy. So we know for a fact, right, that you Democrats don't actually believe the crap that you're saying because your leading candidate, your golden boy of California, is over here saying it. And if he's saying it, obviously you guys are saying something different behind closed doors and just trying to grandstand for people that are less than 2% of the population to try and win that for whatever reason. It's one of the many reasons why you lost this last election, because your voice doesn't carry anywhere and you're looking in the wrong direction.
100%. But, regardless of what that tiger said, the tiger can never change his stripes, and look what he did to California. So, and the fact that his son is a fan of Charlie Kirk speaks volumes, and the common sense that is exhibited by his son.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just funny to see the Democrats falling apart in so many different ways. I don't even know if it's a slow or fast crash out, but in all reality, it is a straight crash out. What we saw at the State of the Union, and what we saw with Al Green, what we saw with several other members, but also the individuals from just holding up signs saying the most ridiculous things, right? I mean, it's just childishness from the Democrats all around. And you also have them making some of the most cringiest videos now. I don't know, I know you saw it, Mike, but the viewers out there, that you have a list of House of Representatives out here talking that made a video. They're all women representatives that made this like simulation of, I don't know if it was Mortal Kombat or whatever, where they like drop in and they're trying to do this fighting stance, and then at the end it says choose your fighter. And I was like, nobody knew what the purpose of this was. It's just weird and random, and it just seems like it's more and more of them trying to get their voice out to younger voters, I guess, because they saw the actual outcome. When it comes to young men, they absolutely blew it out of the water, but I think more so they were shocked with how many young women started to move to the right, and now they're just crashing out with some of the most ridiculous things.
Yeah, you had Jasmine Crockett. You had Jasmine Crockett in that video, and I have never been so embarrassed for the Democrat Party than I have whenever I watch that woman speak, because what comes out of her mouth is not the articulate responses that we're used to seeing from prominent Democrats. Prominent Democrats, we'll take Gavin Newsom. He speaks with a sense of elegance. Obama speaks with a sense of articulation, politeness.
Right.
Her is several swear words, several vulgar remarks, and it's just unbecoming of a representative in Congress.
Right. I mean, even talking about Jasmine Crockett herself, she was one of the individuals that left the State of the Union early, and what she did afterwards just speaks volumes of who she is, honestly. She did some kind of corny video dancing to the Lamar video that, it was the one where he was going at Drake and just doing this nonsense of, not like us is what the song is called, and it was almost like a shot at Donald Trump and the Republicans, and it's like, you don't see how that's unprofessional. You don't see how that shouldn't be something that a U.S. representative should be doing. I mean, it just speaks volumes of what you are as a person when you do that kind of corny stuff.
100%. And I think you said your daughter's got soccer practice right today.
A birthday party.
Yeah. There are some, there has been some movement and some things that Americans have been looking forward to.
Yep.
So, we have Senate Bill 4621, the No Tax on Tips Act.
Right.
That has moved from introduction to the Committee on Finance. And once it goes through that vote, which needs a majority vote, it'll move to the House floor, or to the Senate floor where it will be voted on.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll move to the House of Representatives, and then there it'll be voted.
Right.
And then we have HR 561, which is the Overtime Pay Tax Relief Act, and that is moved from introduction to the referral to Committee on Ways and Means, which goes through the same process, just opposite.
Right. Absolutely. And that's, like I say, promises made, promises kept by Donald Trump in regards to getting this. Now, whether it actually passes and it's filibustered by the Democrats, we'll really see whether or not they actually care about the middle to lower class, because that's who's going to be affected by this the most, honestly. And we'll really just be able to sit here and sit back and say, okay, so you champion yourself as the champions or the fighters, as the video showed the other day. We're the fighters for the middle and lower class. Well, let's see if you hold true to that, honestly, because this is not going to affect the billionaires and millionaires that you keep whining about, even though you're a part of that group yourself. It's going to affect me. It's going to affect Mike, especially when it comes to overtime, because he works a lot of overtime. It's going to affect all of those in the service industry, right? That's millions of Americans that will be able to benefit from this and have better lives. I mean, you talk about increasing pay all the time. How about we just get rid of the taxes that that are absolutely stifling them on their paychecks?
Oh, yeah. I worked, there was one pay period where I worked 114 hours, and I was taxed almost $800.
I mean, I get an annual bonus through my job when we do well, which we will here, and the amount of taxes that comes out of that, it's thousands. And it's like, how? We created a nation off of 3%. And yet here we are getting taxed up the Yahoo about just the most ridiculous things, and we have no idea where the money's going to.
No, but well, we know where it's going to.
True.
It's going to Ukraine.
True.
I mean, hundreds of billions of dollars. But there's some positive movement on that front as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Zelensky's ready to sign the mineral rights deal.
Right, and I mean, I know we'll talk about next week. We'll take a little bit deeper dive into the stock market, because honestly, I wanted to talk about it today, but there's this false narrative that it's just the tariffs that are affecting it. In all reality, the mineral rights deal is not being talked about enough on how much that's affecting the stock market. But I want to wait until next week to really dive into that, because when that is signed, which I'm assuming is going to be this next week, you're going to see the stock market absolutely explode. Just wait.
Yeah, I know a lot of people on social media were like, yeah, the stock market crashed. Well, in the past 24 hours, it jumped up 250 points.
I mean, so. 600 points, 400 points in 2 days, 1,000 overall in a matter of a week. That's not a stock market crash by any definition. So,
no, it's not.
But anyways, we'll dive into that next week, because I want to have the numbers of what's going to happen this week, so that way we can just be like, we told you so, and get really in depth on that. But we want to thank you guys for all coming in, joining us here today, and follow us on all our platforms. Mike, take us home though.
Yep. So thank you for tuning in to America's Greatest Podcast, and thank you to Radiodabang for continuing to host us. And be sure to follow us. Follow Radiodabang on Facebook. Follow the Legislative Lounge on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Patreon. And have a blessed day.